Good morning, Michael. Great to see you. How are you today?
Hey, good morning, Tim. How are you?
Good, thank you. Michael, first, let everybody know where you're calling in from. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Minneapolis, my home office. As you can see, our 3M Center has been closed since March 16th of 20. So most of us are working remotely still.
Well, great to have you from Minneapolis. We are looking forward to the conversation that we're about to have and sharing some insight in this key space because we know there's so many challenges enabling workforce capacity and bringing humans and machines together. So, Michael, first question for you: what do you believe the biggest change you've seen in the past 18 months has been within the manufacturing industry? What are some of those big changes you've seen?
Well, a couple changes that we faced early on, so go back about 18 months ago, was simply demand. A lot of our products, respirators, Scotch blue tape, sandpaper, home filters, lots of products kind of went crazy from a volume perspective. And in the last 12 months, we're dealing with maybe more supply chain issues, more turnover, people changing jobs, moving on to different things, taking time off. And so all that's kicking in. And maybe a steady theme through this whole time is how are we using technology to enable our workforce? And that's really what my group does is scout new applications, try things, pilot them, try to get them more deployed. And it seems like there's more of an appetite for those types of things now. The mindset has shifted. Things are accelerating, and we're hoping the budgets and the numbers of people catch up again. But really, it's been an exciting time to advance technology and really support operations during this just crazy time.
And Michael, I want to stick with that. We're going to dive in a little bit more about the new technologies that you have been adopting in the last 12 months. When you mentioned in the beginning of the pandemic, the demand was up. We're all working remotely. How did you adapt so quickly to meet that customer demand in the beginning of the pandemic? What were some of the things maybe that you implemented to make sure that you could meet that demand?
Well, it was interesting, maybe a coincidence, but we had just deployed the Microsoft Teams platform about a month before the pandemic. And so we were all getting used to how to communicate with that new tool. So we leveraged that heavily. We put together some SWAT teams, teams of experts, engineers, lean people. We borrowed some supervisors and some other technical and IT resources from plants to all swarm a particular location where we were scaling up new equipment. So we really rallied around this team approach, team of experts that were working both remotely from their homes as well as remotely from different sites, not their home location. And we were able to scale up, products much quicker than we had in the past. But that's not a new thing for our company. It's funny because we had already started the wheels in motion with the respirators because of the California wildfires. So we were already ramping up respirator production in January, and then all of a sudden March came along and the demand went even higher. So that's just kind of how we roll. But I will say there was an extraordinary amount of teamwork and communication and keeping track of all these little details day in, day out, using kind of new methods to keep us on track.
And Michael, you bring up a good point. You were trying to help your teams adapt to the changes that needed to be made. How did your role change? How did you adapt to making these changes and really having to implement them rather quickly?
Yeah, it was really accelerated. It was again, looking back, it was just an amazing time. And my team is a relatively small team, and we just raised our hand immediately and said, "Hey, put us where the action is. Get us on the ground." And we rolled up our sleeves and worked side by side with machine builders and engineers and maintenance people and operators that were literally being hired off the street. And again, being on site and having to wear protective gear and going through all kinds of protocols, it was a bit of a stretch, but it really energized our team because we thought, okay, this is a chance to really implement some of the stuff we've been talking about for quite a while, and we think it's going to work, and it's just at a much accelerated pace. So it was a very exciting time.
Absolutely. We always hear if you're going to fail, fail fast and pick up where you left off. And I'm sure you were trying different things and saying, all right, this isn't working and we need to adapt and shift and adapt and shift and move forward. So, Michael, I know you've mentioned technology a few times already about the technology that you adapted. Has tech changed the operational side of the business for you at 3M? And what examples can you give on how your reliance on tech has enabled your workforce?
Yeah, it was, maybe a few years of foundational work and trying small things, small applications, and finally we started coming across some breakthrough things. And really, it centered around a couple of key problems. One is knowledge sharing, training, onboarding, and maybe a more important part of that is the continuous improvement part. We were hearing that the machines are complex, people are turning over, they're changing jobs, we're losing some of the tribal knowledge. Um, the customer requirements were changing potentially. And so we really wanted to get to a digital solution that was mobile, that was adaptable, that was accurate, and that was continuously improving. And so we've been working for about 3 years on a digital platform for that. And I heard a couple of the speakers on the panel mention this as an opportunity, digitizing knowledge and sharing knowledge very rapidly. And as soon as we turned the corner on that, we started getting some early adopters, some excitement happening. Really, the people that were on the fence started demanding it once they saw the early adopters with the tool in their hands. But that also brought on the mobile device era for us, really. We hadn't had mobile devices in production, and it was very limited in terms of access to even computers. And so this platform, this opportunity to really digitize our learning and our continuous improvement process brought mobile devices, pads, tablets, and even mobile phones into the workplace. And that set up another whole effort to try to figure out how to keep those secure, how to keep them working, how to configure them faster, and then how to get the user to start adopting and exploring. And what we found is once we got that going, it took off like wildfire. People were not afraid of the technology. They're like, hey, bring it on. We want it. We have this device at home. We know how it works. We want to be able to use it for new applications. So we were getting suggestions from operators and maintenance people and engineers on, hey, that first app that you came up with was really great, but what about this and that? And they were helping us brainstorm. And so the floodgates open. I think we've got about 40 different apps in the mobile environment now, all enabling the workforce to do their job better.
And I want to come back to this in a moment, but I want to let our audience know if you have a question for Michael, reach out to our producers. We can bring you right up here on the stage and you'll be able to ask your question directly to Michael here. So bring your questions in. Michael, I want to come back to what you were just talking about because a lot of our attendees are having problems with technology adoption. You mentioned one thing that I think is key in implementing new technology is you were listening to the people who these new technologies impact the most. So I want to come back to that. Is that something 3M has always done? Because I know that sometimes tendencies is the leader says, this is the technology I think is going to work, and then they maybe stumble into that adoption challenges there. But has 3M, you mentioned you went back 3 years when you started to implement new technologies. Have you always reached out to your employees to say, hey, give us your ideas, let us know what you're thinking, what's going to work for you?
Yeah, I think in principle that is the culture that we encourage. Open dialogue, ideas can come from anywhere. I think what's happened with the digital realm is there's a little bit of a hesitation. People are a little uncertain at first. Maybe it's a new area for them. And so my team has kind of a standard joke that we say, we come up with ideas, we try to match solutions to problems, and then we have 91,000 employees that can say no. And so there's a lot of salesmanship that goes on, a lot of convincing. But fortunately, with some of these applications, we've done a really nice job of matching the solution to the problem. We find those early adopters. We're sort of embedded in a division that has operations across the US, actually across the globe. And those early adopters are raising their hand saying, pick me, pick me. And their colleagues around them are seeing what's going on, and they very quickly start demanding to be part of the pilot. And so a couple of these applications have just ramped up almost faster than we can handle. So that's been very, very exciting. And really our only limitation now, like I said, is maybe certain roles. We're a little thin on some supervisors. Maybe we're missing a few engineers, and there's holes in our organization that would have helped us accelerate even faster. So we're doing the best we can, but there's a lot of excitement. You know, one of the platforms that we launched a few years back and is gaining a lot of traction. One of the early reactions I got was, "Hey, this is fun. This really has modernized, you know, the work. I've been given modern tools. I feel like I'm up to date, and really engaging with this mobile device is fun." And who'd have thought somebody in, you know, operations would talk about you know, something being fun.
Right, right. And I imagine too, when they see others that may be excited about a new tool, then everybody wants in. Well, what's the excitement about over there, right? Why are they so excited about this? How is this helping them do their job better? I'm imagining that's part of the process as well. When you get excitement from one team, the next team wants in.
Yeah, good news travels fast. Again, we've got a division structure such that sometimes the divisions operate very independently, but somebody in a sister division, or we call them, you know, friend divisions, people that we interact with occasionally, they hear about it and they say, "When can we, you know, get this? When can we try it? You know, can we come visit and check it out firsthand?" So there is a lot of collaboration that happens just through the network.
We have a lot of executives here listening right now who are here scouting out new solutions. What's your advice to this group when they are about to scout out new solutions? How should they go about it? What processes have you found to be successful when you are scouting a new solution?
Yeah, that is the question, right? There's so many opportunities. There's so many vendors. My phone rings off the hook after a vendor show or a seminar, or you know, something gets out on the internet. So our first thing is really understanding the problem. You know, go back to the shop floor, go back to the people doing the work, having a really clear problem statement, and trying to align that to these vendors, these solutions. There's a lot of solutions out there that are looking for a problem, and so you have to really cut to the chase and get to the problem. You know, the next filter that we put on is, will it fit in our current culture, and maybe will it change or advance our culture? So there's a strong people component. We look at sort of, you know, how are people going to behave in this environment with this new tool, with this new application? And you know, that's a really good filter as well, because we do want to move the corporation forward. We want to modernize. I use that word a lot. We're trying to change the culture to sort of this modern technology, modern thinking. And maybe the other one. Okay, so if you've defined the problem, it's going to fit with the culture. You know, having a sponsor or an executive that does say, "Hey, I'm supporting this. I'll fund the pilot. It looks like a good idea. I trust your team to do the evaluation." You know, that always doesn't hurt. And then maybe the fourth thing is, copy exact rarely works. That's one of my phrases. Just grabbing a solution, saying, "Well, so and so is doing that, so I'll just do it here." My team finds that that's rarely the case. And so we have to connect the dots. We have to connect a particular solution, maybe with a different methodology, maybe with a different way of communicating about it, and maybe even with a different device. We've got one application now where we had to steer away from one type of mobile device to another just because of safety concerns. It's a solvent area. Things explode if there's a spark, and so we had to shift, you know, an application to a different type of hardware to make it work for that particular location. So you got to connect the dots and string things together to come up with your own unique solution that's going to fit, you know, your needs.
Great advice there. Michael, I know when organizations have been talking about digital transformation and implementing new tech, one of the challenges a lot of the time is that workforce says, "Up, here comes my replacement. I'm going to be replaced by a machine. I'm going to be replaced by a new technology." Have you had that challenge within 3M, and how were you able to overcome that to explain this is going to, you know, augment your job? This is going to help you do your job better?
Yeah, well, I mean, a true story. 41 years ago, when Mount St. Helens blew up, I I worked across, or I went to school across the street from the 3M factory that made respirators. And I got a part-time job stapling the band on the side of a respirator using a foot switch.
Mm,
Now today, that whole process is done by robots.
right.
So I was replaced by a robot after 41 years. But that's pretty rare these days. Things are moving to a point where we really value the human element. We're not trying to replace them. We're just trying to change the work. We're trying to keep them safe. We're trying to keep people productive, and we want to keep them improving. And that's really our mantra. So I don't think we see a lot of fear in our workplace of people losing their jobs. There's definitely change to their jobs,
Yeah.
but we really want to turn them loose on the continuous improvement and just make their jobs better. I mean, that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
And when we have a couple of early wins, people see that and they say, oh, hey, they're friendly. Bring it on. We're ready.
Absolutely. Great point there. All right. I want to ask you another question, and you've mentioned some of this already, but some of the challenges you faced operationally over the past 18, 19 months, how difficult have they been to overcome, and which part was more difficult, people or technology? Referring back to my last question about the people and technology question. So what are your thoughts on that? Some of those big challenges you faced operationally?
Yeah, that challenge is a strong word. I guess I would call them opportunities. The opportunities are, can you get the equipment? Can you get the technology scaled up fast enough? Are suppliers able to supply? Are we able to get IT and engineering all on board and those things? And I don't know if that's any different. It's always a challenge. There's always a hurdle. It's never fast enough. It's never cheap enough. Back to the people side, I think our biggest gap, as I mentioned, is just having holes in our organization with all the transitions. But the people that we do have, they want to learn, they want to get better, they want to move fast, and so that's real exciting. I think there's a lot of motivated people that are committed to the company, committed to the cause, committed to their jobs, and it's real exciting to feel that pull. And they say, bring it on. We want to improve, we want to get better. Hey, this is a 100-year-old company, and we want to keep that rolling. So really, they're both opportunities on the equipment side, the technology side, as well as the people side.
Michael, I want to come back with another question for you on people. What have you found are performance enhancing techniques to get the most out of staff as well as digital? Because there's a balance that needs to be struck there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, that's also kind of the big elephant in the room. Everybody's wondering how to do this, and maybe I'll address the question a couple different ways. One is just with the team that I lead. What I find is really open communication. Everybody's got the same information, the same tools. We're aligned to the same purpose, and we kind of generate our own excitement around this because we're so transparent. We're all rolling up our sleeves, working in the trenches side by side. We're using the same tools and methods, and we get to interact with the people, using these new innovations. And so that's kind of feeding upon itself. It's really self-perpetuating. In the rest of the organization, honestly, it takes a rare set of skills. And I often joke around about my favorite lean book is The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about in one of his chapters, the law of the few. And he identifies some rare social gifts, the maven, the connector, and the salesman. And so if you can build a team that has a maven and a connector and a salesman on it, you will win this people influencing, building this excitement. You align to a mission, to a goal, and then you turn the mavens and the salesmen and the connectors loose, and just magic stuff happens. So you have to read the book to understand what Gladwell's talking about. But that's been our approach, is to build a team that has those rare social skills.
One more question for you, Michael. One of the main hybrids we've seen in manufacturing industry is the merge of blue and white collar and how they will coexist now. How do you see manufacturing culture developing in the future when we're merging together blue and white collar? What are you seeing in that space?
Yeah, Tim, I love that phrase. Merging the blue collar and white collar, or really just breaking down that barrier. And I think the way we work today and enabled by the digital tools, it's really pretty seamless. And we are working side by side. It's, orders are not coming down from, St. Paul or from, a home office or whatever. Now, I will say the challenge during the pandemic is when people are working remotely and some people are working in the factory, actually making the product and adding value. We are creating almost two companies, the remote working and the on-site. So I think that's a danger that we have to really watch out for. As things were starting to come together, now they're being pulled apart by the pandemic and about this, this remote work. So it's become a challenge. And the other thing, as I've mentioned several times, is holes in the organization, resource gaps. People are willing to pitch in and maybe cross train and help each other out, and I think that really blends the workforce and bonds them together. But it's also tiresome when there's holes in the organization and you're under resourced. Everybody's working hard, everybody's tired, and that's not really the environment that we want to create long term. So we've definitely got our challenges going forward. But in the last, I'd say 5 years, I've seen this blending of roles, and a good idea can come from anywhere. A good implementation can come from anybody. It doesn't have to be the staff or the engineer or the lead person. And so I'm optimistic that that's where we're headed in the future.
Michael, thank you so much for kicking us off on such a positive note at our manufacturing summit. We appreciate all the insight that you shared here. Love what you said about turning challenges into opportunities. It sounds like that's what you've been doing at 3M. So we appreciate you being here on board and look forward to hearing and talking with you throughout this summit.
Sounds great. Thank you, Tim.